So, welcome everybody. It's very nice to meet you all. I guess we'll just kind of go around, and if you guys could just sort of like introduce yourself, say kind of what you do in your own words, a little bit background on maybe your like education journey to get where you are now, or maybe a bit of your early career history, if that's where you're at.
My name's Tiffany. I am a digital illustrator, gouache and oil landscape artist, and an art instructor. And yeah, I currently work at Marvel Studios, and I've kind of had an interesting background where I toggle back and forth between the fine art world and the animation world. I studied animation at USC and got a bachelor degree in animation and digital arts. And after working on the film Loving Vincent as an animator and living in Poland for 6+ months, I really fell in love again with the tactile, with painting again, really being surrounded by a bunch of fine artists. So that's what really triggered my passion for, I guess, finding a studio and then and learning more about, painting in a studio life and, while still working in animation to pay the bills. I love the fusion of both worlds. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
My name's Alex. I am a recent grad from Chapman University. I studied animation over there, and I took a mentorship with Tiffany in 2021, so 2 years ago. And I started digital painting in 2020. So I kind of had somewhat of a recent start. But Tiffany gave me like all the tools that I needed to really get going and start really honing my skills. Right now, I'm an art mentor and I am a production assistant at Marvel Studios with Tiffany on the same show. Also, I am starting up a little art business on the side. So yeah, it's been it's been very fun. Been loving what I'm doing.
Sounds super exciting. I guess congrats on the job, and excited to see what your project's going to be and that's set up.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then yeah, last but not least, Albert.
And Alex is an amazing climber as well. Don't forget that, Alex.
Oh yeah,
sorry. Hello, this is Albert Lim here. I'm a visual artist. I went to Art Center. During Art Center, I was studying entertainment design, and then I believe it was my 5th term. I left to work on first movie, and during the time when I was working on my first film, I actually realized that I was like, wow, like I'm really bad at colors. So a friend of mine named Chloe introduced me to Tiffany, and she was telling me about her amazing mentorship. So I took Tiffany's mentorship, and from there I learned a wealth of knowledge in terms of color painting. And then from there, I was able to, after Tiffany's mentorship, I was able to work at a number of studios, including Illumination, Warner Brothers, Netflix, and Mattel. It's been a really good learning experience getting to know Tiffany and Alex. And now I'm a lead color designer at a French studio called Oculus Studios.
That's really interesting as well, hearing all of you kind of run through your introductions, because normally the second question that we kind of ask is if there's this triangle of teacher, student, and professional, where kind of do you place yourselves within that triangle? Like, is it a mixture of two, or a square in the middle, or heavily on one side? And it was really interesting hearing that you all have studied, are currently working, but also sound like there are mentorships going on.
I'm going to say, I forgot to say, thank you, Albert and Alex, for being so kind and mentioning my mentorship. And I just wanted to say, I also asked them to be on because they're two of my best students that I had. So true go-getters and really passionate about learning and receptive to like sponges. And I really enjoyed working with them. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And I guess in terms to your question, I was thinking about that a lot, and I think for me, like I love I love my job as a color key artist at What If with Alex, and I really enjoy that, and I would say that is like my job and my career, but what I'm passionate about is really teaching, I think, and I think that's becoming more and more apparent as I get older and as I, teach more and expand more. I really love working with people. It's the reason, and meeting people. It's the reason why I was able to meet David and Albert and Alex, people from completely different countries. And so I think for me, that's what gets me really excited, like being able to think of new content or like really just share what I'm passionate about in terms of, what I'm learning as an artist. I think it's so important to keep learning as an artist and read books related to art and not related to art, and share that with others and be able to inspire them to pursue their own goals and their dreams. So I think I've read somewhere before, like, you have your career and you have your passion, and I was thinking about that. So I'd say, like, what pays the bills in my career is like working in animation, but what I'm really passionate about is like teaching for me, I think. But I definitely consider myself a hybrid of all of them, I guess.
Great. I think that definitely comes across, almost immediately, including
Oh,
just,
I
including
sound
choosing to
teachy.
start.
Do I
No,
sound
no.
teachy?
Well, maybe
Alex
just
and
the
Albert
fact.
are like laughing and rolling. I
Preach.
can't see them.
I think when you like start the answer to a question with praise of two students, you kind of do put the teacher badge on yourself
Oh,
a
I'm
little
so
bit.
proud of them. I'm
Yeah,
yeah,
it
I'm
really comes
very proud of
across.
all my students, but I'm very proud of them. They're great. Yeah.
So yeah, if we swing over to you guys, if either of you want to jump in on where you place yourself on those scales.
Okay, I guess I'll go.
I'll tell you, so polite.
Like listening for Albert. Okay,
Sorry.
so yeah, I would say that I'm definitely in all three of those. Right now, I'm kind of a mixture of mentor and student. So, because right now I'm taking a few classes myself, but then I have a mentorship that's coming up in June, so I'm gonna switch hats in a second. But yeah, I think honestly, my goal is to go back to being like more of a student because there's just so much that I want to learn.
We're
Because I
always
didn't really
students,
have,
Alex.
when I went to university, I didn't really study painting and really kind of dive into it too much while I was at school because it was just very like an overall just studying animation type of school. Like we made a film and stuff and kind of scratched the surface. Digital painting, I took one class in it. And yeah, so now like post grad, I started taking stuff with Tiffany and seeking out my own learning where I could online. But I think the dream of mine is to hopefully with this like art business and stuff that's coming up, a goal for me would be to be able to kind of gain a little bit of freedom back for myself so that I can go and learn again and just kind of do that for myself because I do want to wear the student hat again.
Yeah, and I guess quickly just to follow up on that, do you feel like once you got professional work that there was then a gap in your studentship, or was it more like you carried on being a student on the side? It's just what you really want is to go back to kind of being a dedicate, having that
Yeah,
time to
I think
really be a student fully, kind of thing.
definitely. Yeah, I want to have that dedicated time again because I think now I do it much better than I did a few years ago because I think I know a little bit better how to be an efficient student.
Yeah, I find myself as a hybrid as well. I loved what Alex and Tiffany both said. I do feel like a hybrid. Sometimes when I've been in a position where I had the opportunity to teach as well, and when I'm a student. But then as a teacher as well, you also learn a lot from teaching, especially if you're able to like explain what you're doing and being able to make that information that you're showing digestible to other students, then that really tells me that you know your stuff. So teaching as well, I still feel like a student. So I think if you find a balance in both worlds, it's great.
Yeah, it's really funny how often that's come up. I think it's come up with every single person we've asked, basically. When they say, if you really want to be a good student, you should try teaching, even just for a little, a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then I guess that kind of ties in what you were saying as well. That like it also means that if you go back to being a student again afterwards, you're probably going to have a much better idea of how to actually make the most of that little window of opportunity you get when you are a student.
Yeah, and I also want to mention what Tiffany said earlier because this is actually something that I've been struggling with these days. I don't know if you guys relate the same way, but it's about like working and then finding your passion and trying to find out the difference between what is work for you and what is your passion. And I think that's something that as artists we all kind of like deal with. And I don't know about struggling with, but we do deal with it. So yeah, it's been fun and challenging to try to find that clear line.
Yeah, I mean,
Definitely.
I can say personally, I agree with that. I mean, I've only recently started as a background artist for an indie game, and I've only been doing that for about 3 or 4 months, but I'm already finding myself kind of staring at like a grey blank wall if I can't somehow find the time to do personal projects in the evening. It's exactly the thing I was trying to get into doing, but now I'm finding myself wanting to draw more in the evening to kind of fulfill the stuff that I thought I would be fulfilling myself with in my work. And I don't know, I don't know how common that experience is with people
Oh,
when they
it's
start
very
working.
common. I think in response to Albert's question, like one thing for me I've been finding is like finding these seasons for yourself, or like ritual or routines. Like I find that when I do have an art job, I'm like very less likely to want to paint for myself. I actually almost have no desire to paint for myself. Quite personally, I'll put it out there because I'm so drained, I guess, kind of from work versus when I was a PA at a commercial studio way back. I was actually like super fired up. I don't know if Alex, you feel the same, but like because my job was not art related, I was like any second I had, I was like out plein air painting, out, doing this. This was also when I was, younger and probably had more energy or whatever, around, 23 or something. But I feel like finding allotments of time where you can be like, this is this time for this, but then this is this time for me where I can allow myself to just like do what I really love to enjoy, whether that be like Albert. I know, I don't know if I'm allowed to mention it, but like I'll let you talk about it if you want later. I don't
No,
want to
please,
say it from.
please go for it.
Oh, like for example, what I really admire, what, Albert and Alex are doing is like Albert is part of a nonprofit called Global Education Connection. And so they actually are helping kids in war torn countries, providing them with art supplies and education. Did I get that right, Albert?
Yeah, that
Okay.
was great. Yeah.
Like, yeah, and I can relate to that because that would be like definitely something that you could be passionate about working on. And then Alex as well with his art business. I'm not sure I'm going to speak for you, Alex, but he has a really cool idea going on as well. And so I feel like it's so important to have these things that you can continually work on and cultivate, aside from work, is what I feel, because I'm easily drained. Oh, I remember what I was gonna say. Like, I think like knowing yourself is so important. Like, for example, I have friends who like they constantly need another job right after another, or they feel maybe not valuable. And for me, I realize that my routine is kind of like I like working in a studio, but then I do need those couple of months where it's like to myself, kind of finding back my energy, finding my focus, and then like recouping, working on whatever I have, whether it be teaching or other things, which is why I love having sort of that triad of like teaching, painting for shows, and then, studio work. And that triad, I think, is a nice balance. So some people, can keep constantly working. I'm not that kind. And that's why I love having those different passions that I have. Yeah. That's a really roundabout way of saying something simple, I think.
Well, I think so. I mean, like, I'll just double check. I kind of got the gist of it. Is that you have those different modes of working? Because I was really interested when you said you do have these periods, and it's great that you're being honest. To basically, be like, sometimes when I'm working, I just can't bring myself to paint even more after that, or keep being more of what I'm working on. But it sounds like you've kind of set it up that when your career work is kind of done, you've got those different kind of taps you can turn on to release some pressure. Do you have to be quite disciplined with yourself to give yourself some time away from work to do it, or how do you make sure that you kind of like give yourself that space all the time to actually take a break from your work?
Yeah, I think that's a great. I think one of the things I'm practicing like this year and next year is like saying no to more things. I think that's actually really hard for me. So just things that I think I know deep down maybe I won't enjoy, or won't fulfill me as much. I think that's always been really hard for me. I used to tend to say yes to everything. I also think something Alex brought up that's really important is like wanting to giving more time to be a student. Like for me, I hadn't taken a class in a while, but I'm also a lot pickier with who I learn from. And so, like I just recently took a workshop with T. Allen Lawson, and he's one of the painters that I just love. And so I took a composition workshop with him, and that was really nice to be a student again. Alongside, you learn a lot while you're teaching as well. So that's the great benefit of teaching. But I think you do have to be disciplined in a way where you do realize you don't have all the time in the world. you really have to choose and set boundaries. And I think that's something I'm learning. It's like setting boundaries isn't being mean. It's like allowing yourself to be kinder to yourself and therefore be kinder to others, and more compassionate towards everything, and put in more energy to everything that you do so that you give 100% of your energy. Yeah, I think it is about being disciplined in that manner. Yeah.
Yeah, can I also just say that it's such a pleasure to hear like people like Alex and Tiffany being able to like take breaks. Because I don't know about you guys, but as an artist myself, when I'm on Instagram, I'm always like, oh my goodness, like I have to keep working, I have to keep working. You know, there's that constant like pressure to like keep
Oh
uploading.
yeah.
But it's nice to hear like industry professionals as your guys' selves. You need breaks to like recharge, and that's always been something that I felt guilty about whenever I did take breaks.
I have the same problem, Albert. Really? You have that? I feel like you
Oh,
guys are
100.
really.
Yeah, I do
Oh,
my best to like show the illusion that like I don't feel that, but I'm feeling it, and I don't know if you guys feel that, but like I feel all the time. So like whenever I see like Alex and Tiffany posting stuff, I'm proud of them, because like I'm happy for them because they're my friends, but at the same time I'm like, oh god, like I need to
I'm the
be like
same way.
painting too.
Alex is the best poster here. I'm just like, I'm retired. I'm not
Damn
gonna
you,
post
Alex.
every day.
Um,
Alex is like on it for plain April, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna go off of Instagram right now because I do feel that guilt, and I'm not
Yeah.
gonna look at anything anyone is posting because I'm just gonna feel guilty. And it is like, no, Albert, I deal with it 120 whatever percent. It's just, I think that's also discipline. Like, not getting lost. Like, I barely scroll. Actually, I just post. I'm like, okay, put away my phone. Like, I just, because I know I feel bad really fast. And when I make art in that state, it's never great. Like when I make art for the sake of like I have to post something, like I absolutely, I don't know if we can cuss here, but effing hate that mentality. Like nothing ever good comes out. It has to be in a state where I'm like really inspired by something, and it comes from the state of like wanting to search for more, but not for the sake of like I saw someone post something, so now I feel like I like it's just so rotten. Like it's such a
Yeah.
rotten feeling to me. And unfortunately, I
yeah.
think it's almost an inevitable feeling of like the infiltration and inundation of social media that, is all around us. But no, I think taking breaks is something. I think Alex, I was talking to you at Disneyland, and this is a funny. I was like, "Yeah, Alex, like I actually realized like for me personally, like I for some reason I can't stop work before 9:30 p.m. Like I always have to be doing something. Like I force myself to, whether it be like I have to work out and then after this I have to take care of this and this. And then when I'm actually relaxing, and my mode of relaxing is like watching my baking shows, which totally takes me to a happy place. That's
Yeah.
like 10 p.m. And I'm like, finally I feel like I've deserved it, which to me feels rather late because I don't want to sleep too late. And
Yeah.
then Alex was like, oh yeah, usually I start painting at like 12 a.m. and I don't go to bed till 3 a.m. And I was like, what? Like I thought I was crazy. He's like, that's when I get my peace and quiet. Everyone has their own routines, but it's just that was something that I'm currently trying to work on, like giving myself license to not feel bad about doing something else other than art, like baking or other, hobbies that I have. So yeah, I'm totally with you there, Albert.
That's music to my ears.
You are not alone. I think a lot of you feel like that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a 9:30 crowd person here as well. The sun has to be down before I think I can properly relax,
I
basically.
know, right? It's like the sun can't, especially the longer days. It's so
Hmm.
trippy because you're like, oh, I'm at 6 p.m. I can technically be off work. And then you're like, oh no, but it's still sunny. I have to keep doing something. But
There was something I
yeah.
found quite interesting in your answers there that we could see if maybe you can pick a little bit more out of. When you're talking about that pressure of like feeling like you have to keep working and posting, I'm really curious where that kind of comes from in artists, whether it's the whole you want to prove that you're good. I think that's the thing when you're a student a lot, you always want to prove that you're worth your teacher's time or you can keep up with other students. But I'm really interested when professionals say that they never, a lot of them really never manage to drop that. And I was curious whether that comes from, being around so many other professionals, whether it is something like having Instagram, ArtStation, Twitter, whatever, whether it's just this endless torrent of amazingly beautiful work coming in, or if it's, something else. Like, do any of you kind of have like an idea about where that I must make more work drive is coming from with you?
Dude, I wish I knew. It's probably some deep psychological shit or something. I don't know. Maybe it's like this fear of being irrelevant. I think for me, that's partly like there's, so many great artists out there, and sometimes you're like, "Oh my God, am I going to get lost in the wave of like social media?" But I think for me, the thing that consoles me is like I rather put out work that is authentic and that's quality instead of like pumping out a lot of like things that come out from not such a great place. So that's what I console myself with. Like I take a lot longer now, coming up with something or even, something that might inspire me. But man, I don't know. I think everyone wants to be relevant, right? Would you guys
Mm.
agree, Albert and Alex?
I
Yes.
would agree.
Well, that was quite succinct.
Yeah. No one wants to be irrelevant in this age. Everyone needs their opinion and, they want to put their art out there and be noticed. So, yeah.
I definitely lean on stoicism for that. Just the
Oh,
idea
yeah,
that
like stoicism.
you're all gone and forgotten about very shortly. It'd be the idea of in the last 500 years, if people had to name like famous classical musicians, they're probably only going to be able to give unless music is your passion or your hobby, you're probably only going to be able to give like 10 or 20 classical composer names out of the like thousands of years of millions of people who all tried that. And then who knows, in another few thousand years, that list might be down to like two from this time period anyway. So I try not to get too caught up. I'm terrible for posting full stop anyway, full disclosure, so I'm probably not the most qualified person to comment on that. But
I think a key word that Tiffany mentioned was being authentic. I think that's something that I struggle with, and I don't know if Alex feels the same, and Tiffany as well. But then, like, I think for a while, like, I was posting work on Instagram, and my main focus, this is gonna be so sad to say, but like my focus was like getting likes, and like that was all I cared about, and just getting the attention. Be like, oh, like if this gets a lot of likes, if this is a good painting, but then that's kind of toxic when you approach art like that, right? I was making decisions when I was painting, and I'd ask myself, okay, am I going to get a lot of Am I going to get a lot of likes with this, or am I going to learn something new? And I took the road of I'm just going to do what I've always done and just get those likes, which is awful. You should never do that. I was just holding myself back because I was never, experimenting. I was never pushing myself to try something new. And I do catch myself doing that a lot. And it's being authentic. I think that's what's really important. Not doing it because other people want to see it, but it's because you want to do it, right? So.
Yeah. I think one thing for me, because Tiffany and Albert said that I was the most efficient poster, but that is definitely not the case. I just I just decided that in April I was going to do the challenge to paint every day something, and this is my second year doing that, and yeah, I just had in February, like me and my girlfriend broke up. So I needed something to kind of get myself, back into sorts. And I felt that April was kind of the perfect moment for me to just be like, okay, delve into painting and let's use this month to challenge myself and try and do something that is hard for me or new every day. So I tried doing a painting every day that was something out of my comfort zone, but also only stuff that I wanted to do.
And
So
Alex, I think that's great what you did.
yeah,
I'm not.
and it was a really great
Yeah.
learning
I
for
think
me.
it's great what you did. I admire that. I'm not saying like you as like posting. I'm like it's hard to do that, and I really admire that you did that. And so I'm really proud of you. It's hard to keep posting every day and to challenge yourself with, something like trying getting out of your comfort zone. I really appreciate that you guys are both so open too. Like it's so nice to hear from you guys that sharing I guess your guys' thought processes as well. That's
You know
nice
what
to
I think
hear.
it is? I think it's because all our screens are black. So like I feel very vulnerable. I can just like say anything right now. I think if I see your guys' faces, I'd be like, oh no, I can't share this. But it's kind of nice that, we're just kind of talking in a
I
blank.
guess
Bring it
so.
back.
Yeah, this is a new experience. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
we're in
No,
the
it's
isolation tank. And these are all just voices in your head.
yeah. I'm really happy to hear that you guys, it's one thing I wanted to say about, I don't know if you guys notice this, but every time I post something that I know is not going to get a lot of likes, but I had such a fulfilling time painting it because it's something different from what I usually do, those will almost never get any likes. But for me, it was like so fulfilling. That's how it always is for me. And I've talked to Mike Hernandez about this, and I think he and some other artists agree. And then every time I know it's like this painting that like I'm like, yeah, it's cool, but like I don't. It's like it's cool, and I know it's gonna be popular, but I don't really care anything for it. Those get a lot of likes, and I just don't care. I think Alex, I was showing that painting to you where you shared my painting, and then I was like, I don't really care about this painting. It's like kind of, I guess, cliche. Like that would be an example. Yeah, I guess it's always interesting how it works inversely that way. And when you don't get that social media confirmation, it can feel really crushing. But I think it's important to remind yourself, like ask yourself, like, did I gain something meaningful from this that I can take away from forever? And the answer is yes. And it's like that's all you really need, and like that's so important to hold on to, I think. So yeah.
If I can add to it, I had the same problem with the likes because yeah, I wanted my Instagram site like having like everything perfect on it. But what I did and it helped me was that I tried to do like really ugly sketch and post it, and it just like
Mm-hmm.
it was pushing me like just not caring about what is on my Instagram, and I was just posting some of the stuff that I would never
Yeah.
and
And that's courage. Like that's really, that's courageous. And I think that's it's hard to do that. And David, I will also say like you improved so much. I remember when you took my mentorship, and then like I don't know what it was, like 6, 8 months later, I looked on your wall and you sent me some stuff. It's like, holy crap. Is this the same person? Like all of you guys here, like, Alex, you were practicing your gouache studies and stuff like that, and then you really improved. Albert, you've just always been a great painter anyway, but you definitely improved in like your color and your composition as well. Like all three of you guys are I'm so happy to say. But yeah, I just wanted to say that as a side note. But I think that's really courageous that you're posting things that are not refined, and I bet people admire that. They're just afraid to do it themselves, and they're like, wow. I personally like looking at unrefined, ugly, quote unquote things. I like seeing sketches, so I like it when people post like the process stuff.
I think there
I
is
think it's
like
cool.
what I don't like about social media. There is like toxic illusion that everything and everyone is perfect. And what I like about people, about some people that are like posting stuff that are not like finished, or they're like showing of like a work in progress on their like stories, and that's what I really like when people do, because yeah, showing that everything is like polished. And yeah, I just did it like this is my quick sketch, and he worked for it for like for 2 days. And yeah, I think people should show their sketches more,
Agreed.
at least on their stories.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Enough about
I have
social media now.
Yeah.
I would like to ask, because as an artist, I would like to teach in the future. If I would like to teach on my own, what are the steps that I should take? Like how to be a successful teacher and help students better? Like what was your approach to be like successful and helping your students?
I would first say really first no. I was talking to Jackie about this, our coworker Alex. I the first thing I tell people is like you have to know that you have a passion for teaching, because I don't think every great artist makes a good teacher. I've heard instances from this at schools and stuff like that. Like just because you admire their style and they're like really talented doesn't mean they know how to explain things or break things down, and that's really important as a teacher. So if you already know you can do that and you have a passion for that, that's good. I think that's the first box that should be checked, in my opinion. I think the second box is what area you want to focus on, right? Is it just painting in general? Do you want to focus on characters, or is it, color or composition? Because those are really broad things. I would be specific, because there's a lot of online classes now with that's COVID has hit. Online classes have skyrocketed. Everything is accessible. And so when everything is accessible, nothing becomes really special as much, because people can just click things, choose really quickly or not. And there's a lot of okay stuff, and there's a lot of, good stuff, and then there's great stuff, right? And now it's, the student's job to kind of weed through all that. So it's like, how do you separate yourself from all the other character artists out there, or, digital painters out there, or whatever it may be, like what special thing do you have? For me personally, when I was creating my mentorship, when I first started out, I created it not because because I found out that I love to teach, but I also, because through teaching workshops, I found this sort of chasm between fine artists in my gouache workshops that were interested in digital painting but scared. And then when I was teaching like digital painting workshops, I had a lot of artists be like, I really want to learn gouache, but I'm scared. I guess they're both scared of each medium. And my mission, and I wrote this all down, by the way, which is why, Alex, when you started teaching, I told you to be very clear and write it down, because it's not just enough to be like, I want to teach. It's just not enough. Anyone can do that, and they can teach really crappily. No offense or anything. So it's like being clear with your intentions. And so my mission was to sort of bridge that gap. I wanted to attract students who were interested in strengthening their color mixing skills through traditional means, strengthen their digital paintings that way, and then or vice versa. And so the first students I had, I was really giving them a lot of like traditional exercises, plein air with gouache. Eventually I did separate, and I had separate gouache plein air mentorships and digital painting mentorships, because I realized that there needed to be a sector for people who just wanted to get better at gouache, and who had no digital painting experience. Although I did have one lady, she was an oil painter, and she specifically wanted to learn digital painting techniques to make her paintings better. And because she had such a strong traditional painting background, she aced digital painting in like 6 weeks. It was really cool to see. Like it was really cool. So I've seen instances like that, but that was my mission, and it still is my sort of, I guess, thesis that I go by. And that's what I know separates me from artists who, just do digital painting, or, that's their focus. Like mine is that I know that I can draw elements from both mediums to be able to explain certain fundamentals better. And that's what I try to share with people in my mentorships and everything. So I think being clear with your thesis is really important. And then I think when you actually do teach, it's about, having a good curriculum, being clear about the steps, and then people will see that. And if they see that, they'll want to share your course with other people. I think word of mouth is really important. And this is just all from my own experience.
Thank you. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I really like to teach in the future, because it helps me, like, for example, when I'm teaching myself on art, like I'm always thinking like how I would describe it to like a beginner, like yeah, I'm getting the information more quickly into my head when I
That's
think
awesome.
about it. Yeah.
I mean, teaching is an art form. It's not just about like being like A, B, and C. It's like you got to be creative and thinking of ways to explain it to this person versus this person versus this person, thinking of analogies, or thinking of, things that would resonate with them. That's the challenge that I love from teaching, that, you might not get from just working from a job where it's like someone gives you and it kind of is. Everything's different. Like someone gives you a brief or assignment, and then you have to, translate their vision. But teaching is really just this back and forth connection, right? And I think the creative part is finding different exercises. The reason why I think reading is so important, and even non-art books, is like you come up with different exercises that you go, oh, maybe this will help my students, or maybe this, this kind of exercise. And I think that's the fun part of being creative as well. Yeah, as a teacher.
Kind of had a couple follow-ups on that. I mean, that was a great answer as well, by the way. Like, I love that question, because I think lots of people, are really interested in the thought of teaching, and I think some people just think of it either as too daunting of a task, or I think even just honestly hearing like it's also something you really have to do, because I think there's a lot of people who maybe consider it as like, oh, this is maybe a supplement to my income or whatever. But most of the teachers I've met who I would say are good teachers or have students that produce good work are nearly always from someone who's like, no, I actually do teaching because it fulfills me in a way that either my work can't, because I love doing it that much, or because they take it very, very seriously. And I don't know, I guess I was just curious if either you, Alex, or Albert, kind of had any starting up experiences, from your own teaching, like if there was something that attracted you to doing it yourself, or like what was kind of the reason why you wanted to give it a go.
Yeah. So for me, I was talking to Tiffany. She actually encouraged me to start teaching because of that learning aspect of teaching. So I felt that through explaining all of these concepts that I had soaked up, it kind of would give me a second round at those concepts because explaining it is completely different from, getting it spoken to you. So yeah, and I also felt when I was teaching my first session, people were asking me questions that I was like, "Oh, wow, that's a really great question. I have to think about that for a second." And then I would have to give an articulated response to it when it may have been some abstract concept that I've never articulated before. But like it made sense to me in my head. So yeah, I don't know. It's just it gave me another opportunity at learning. So yeah, that's why I was drawn to it.
Great. And I mean, do you think it's something you'd pursue later on? Maybe in a bit more sense. It sounds like it was a very useful tool. Did you kind of get the teaching bug, I guess, when you started it or not?
Yeah, I definitely did because like I loved seeing the work that the students were making, and like when people were really passionate about a project and they kept sending me their work for feedback, I could tell when somebody really wanted to make the best piece that they could. I just kind of, I feel that energy and I, want to help as best as I can. So I would give them, tons of paint overs, and I love like, not having to have like completely had my own brain in a piece of concept art and have had somebody else kind of do the legwork, but I'm like, oh yeah, do this, that'll be
I
really cool.
also love doing
Um,
that.
like pointing people in the right direction. That's super fun. Love that.
Totally agree with Alex. When someone else does the legwork and you're just like, Alex, that's why I like it when you send me stuff. I'm like, oh, it's there. I'm just gonna add this.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then I'm like, no, figure it out yourself. Just kidding.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's weird when it comes to teaching. I honestly, if I say this, I'm pretty sure no one's gonna want to work with me anymore. But then, like when I'm working in office, and like someone does like, I mean, most of the people that I work with are way better than me, and like when they post their work online, I get like jealous and like envious, and I'm like, oh man, like I wish I could have done that, right? But then when I'm teaching and like I have students and they do amazing work, I don't feel that. If anything, I feel so happy for them, like genuine happiness, and I'm like keep going, keep going. And I think that's been really rewarding when it comes to teaching. I don't know if Tiffany and Alex feel this way from like the difference between working and teaching. Maybe it's just me, but yeah, I do love that experience.
No, I think I can relate to that for sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's like when you
I
guys
mean,
were
that's
creating awesome stuff, I was like, yeah. Like I was like, and my mind was like, can I do that? And I was like, but they did it. That's great. And it's like,
Mhm.
and then you see like other like coworkers, whoever, like they're like, it's so good. They're so good. And I'm like, shoot, now I feel awful. Okay, get off of social media.
Yeah.
yeah, it literally sounds like it's the anti venom to the feelings that you get. Like, one kind of soothes the wound that the other one causes. Great work over here makes me very stressed. Great work over there makes me feel very proud and
I
relaxed.
know. I don't. I hope we're not making art sound too stressful. It is. It is for me, as I know for all of you guys, like the vein that keeps us alive. Like I wouldn't be able
Hmm.
to, live without painting or something. Obviously, we all have other hobbies like or passions like rock climbing, except me here. But I,
Soon,
mine's baking. I'll bake you guys all the bread after you guys go rock climbing.
even
Right?
better.
There was a period of time. This is a funny story, but I think last Christmas where like in the holidays I got obsessed with baking, like to the point where this has never happened to me, and I don't know if this has happened to you guys. I wanted to do it more than painting, and that's like this. The feeling was so strange to me. I was like, this is weird. I supposed to feel guilty? But the thing I could always only think about was the next loaf, because I was trying to perfect those air holes that I wanted to get in this bread, and I literally baked like 50 loaves just to like practice. And it was like I was like, this is so weird. I'm just thinking about baking, and I've completely forgot about painting, but it brings me so much joy. So I'm not sure how I'm supposed to feel right now. And then now it's subsided. So like now, I figured it out, and I don't bake as much because I don't have anyone to give it to. And so it's like now it's ebbed and flowed. But there was a period of time, I don't know if you guys have experienced that before, where like something else takes over and you're like, no, art's supposed to be the number one thing. I'm performing treason or something. But then you can't help it and you keep doing it. Maybe rock climbing, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that definitely happens to me. I think for me right now, it's guitar. I'm like trying to learn.
Oh, that's a fun one.
Yeah.
Alex is a great singer, by the way. He will serenade all you guys and
Sing for us right now. No, I'm kidding.
Here we go.
but not kidding.
No.
I think I have this thing. I kind of have like hyper focus and things.
Yeah.
So when I paint and stuff, I like once I start a painting, I get into a tunnel and I can't escape until the painting is like
Yeah.
either done or I've left it at a place that I'm feeling happy with. And I think the same thing is happening right now with guitar. Like when I'm learning a new song, I just want to learn every part of that song and I
I can
can't
totally
stop
relate to that.
until I've gotten to a place where I'm like, yeah, that's good. So yeah, I don't know. Hyper focus is like it's a blessing and a curse of just like I can't transition between tasks and stuff. But when I'm doing something, I'm like giving 120% to it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think I think I'm like that too. But I bet Alex, you're learning something from guitar that is connected to painting in some way. I bet you in some way because it's such a creative and musical,
Yeah,
thing. I bet you can find ties. Maybe in like the chords, like maybe the way you're plucking a string can be in relation to how you're putting down,
yeah,
strokes on a painting. I love finding those connections. So how about
yeah,
you, Albert?
I would say, yeah, definitely climbing. Definitely working on this nonprofit that you mentioned earlier.
Oh
That's
yeah.
been extremely rewarding. But I do feel that, like, I feel like sometimes I used this analogy before, but like everyone else is going up. Everyone's a fish, right? And they're going up one stream, but then like I'm going on this different stream, and I'm like asking myself, am I supposed to go this way? And what I found out as I get older is that usually when I take a path that not many other people take, I usually end up being very satisfied and happy with the path that I took. So I do encourage just a little bit of like try something else, experiment, right?
Dude, do you know what I heard in a podcast just the other day? I forgot who it was. It was either is this great a podcast I would like to listen to, but the guy was saying how like I think he says every 7 years he oh crap, what's his name? I don't have it open. I can't remember these are the two same people, but every 7 years he takes a break. It's not really like a break where you don't do anything, but it's like a break where you try new things. And I think that try something that you think will like totally fail or like totally is not related to what you usually do. It's so important to exercise just those other skills because like you'll just learn so much from it. And of course the whole thing, like if you're not getting out of your comfort zone, you never know what you can discover. But I really like that idea of what you just said, Albert, of like trying something different. Like I can't even remember how many times I've tried something different and it's just led back to like something that has fueled my art even more. And it's just let me see things in a new lens or things I would have said no to. It's provided me with a new experience that I might not otherwise have found. Although I just said earlier in this podcast I'm learning to say no to certain things, but I think in my earlier years especially this would be a advice I would give for younger artists. Like maybe when you're in your 20s, like you guys, I just put myself in an age bracket, but um, I'm 40, guys, but I'm just kidding. I'm not.
You're good. You're good. You look great. You look great.
It's all right. We'll get it in
They
post.
can't see how I look like. It's okay. It's like try something where you say yes to most everything and open up your heart to learning something from it, right? Because if you never know what you can experience. Like I remember I was gonna go to this plein air competition in Curacao, and it was like a new plein air competition. I had asked a couple of people like what they thought of it, and I've never been to this island. It's a Dutch colonized island in the Caribbean, and I didn't really know what was in store. The plane ticket was expensive. I was like, I don't know if I should do this. Like maybe it's not a good financial thing. And then I think I remember asking one of my friends, and he was like, "What do you have to lose?" I was like, "I don't really know. I guess money." And he's like, "I say just go for it." And I was like, "All right, I'll just go for it." And it turned out to be like the best experience ever. And everything was like I got to paint inside a bridge. I got to paint like at these really cool places I'd never been to. I stayed at an amazing host home just a pleth. I went on a yacht because my host family was like super rich, and like they took me on a yacht, right? Like all these things that would have never happened. And so I think being open to experiences is such a important part of cultivating that daring, courageous side of you. Yeah.
Yeah, if I can also just add one more thing. I'm sorry to interrupt, but then
No,
like
go.
at the age I'm at right now, I don't know about you guys if you guys feel the same way, but like when I was younger, I used to like obsess if someone was like an amazing artist, right? But then like, oh, like they're an amazing artist. They do art every day, and that's all they do. Come to realize that like for me, what I find more interesting is people who don't only just do art, but they're also interested in other things, and I believe it enriches their art and their personality and their lives as well. So I just find myself more geared, like more interested in folks who don't just only do art. Because I went to a school called Art Center, and like a lot of the students there, it was an amazing school, but they're so like driven to do art, which I respect so much. And I realized that wasn't what was going to make me happy. Just I'm talking about personal experience. Me just doing art and like being the best artist in the world wasn't going to make me happy. It was doing art the best I can and doing other things that will enrich my life ultimately make me the most happiness. And I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but it's just kind of at the point in my life where I'm at right now.
100%.
No, I definitely agree.
Yeah.
It's felt that balance is really important. And yeah, I think if I was doing just art all the time, I would drive myself crazy and get burnt out and lose interest. So because I think the most important thing overall is having, the curiosity. And if your curiosity dies, then that's it. So yeah, I think doing other things and keeping your curiosity alive and in other forms is what allows us to have the creative bone that we need. So yeah,
I think Alex brought up sorry, Alex, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
I think you brought up a really good point of like curiosity. I think at my point in my life, I'm really attracted to, like, I want to be friends with people who are curious, not just people who are like interested in like painting the same thing over and over because they know, it sells or whatever. Like the artists I'm attracted to now or look up to, it's like people who are constantly trying something new or have this curious state of learning. Like Kwang Ho, some fine artists like Kwang Ho, Tial, and Lawson, like you can tell they're just always searching and they're never staying in the same place and they're having fun while doing it versus someone who just like their style or maybe that there's nothing wrong with that, but for me personally I think just being like Albert said, that's like I'm noticing like the kind of lifestyle people have as well. It's like, is it balanced, is it wholesome, like do what other interests do they have in their life? Like that's why I admire both of you guys as well. Like Albert, you're part of the nonprofit. Alex, you're like a go-getter and starting your own art business, and so like that's really cool to see and that's really inspiring. And I love that. Like that to me is people who are really taking life by the horns, I think. Is that the saying? Life by the
It sounds right to me.
It works now.
I always butcher saying.
Reads.
I always get sayings wrong, so I'm
me too.
I hear you.
I just love how that road led all the way from sounding like you were having an art affair at the minute where you have to like turn your tablet or computer screen around so you can sneakily play guitar or bake some bread.
Yeah.
And I ended up into this like, be curious and find the experience, like actually go live the experiences so you actually have some experiences to share with your art at the end.
Honestly, I just think it's so important. Like, because I want to have kids in the future. So I was like thinking a lot about how what I would share with my kids. I think like the number one thing I want to cultivate in them is like curiosity. Like, how can you be curious? And I just finished reading a book about this actually, like how to find curiosity in like the mundanity of life, or like even taking walks and noticing things that you didn't notice before, like the flowers or the way the leaves like blow in the wind. Like a lot of times we're just so focused on the future, like what we need to do or what is in our heads or on our phones. It's like we don't notice the beauty around us, that it's like so much there. And kind of looking at things in a new lens, I find it's so eye-opening sometimes. And like I never noticed flowers before this, partly because my boy, like before this, my boy loves taking pictures of flowers. And before this, I was like, flowers are flowers. And then I'm trying to force myself to take walks more. That's something that is a personal thing. So I'm not like literally in my house or my apartment the entire day, which really depresses me, by the way. I can't. I hate it. But so when I force myself to take walks, I actually stop and I'm like, look at this flower, look at this flower. And just like flowers themselves, I was like, there are like 100 different flowers here that I've never noticed that are so beautiful in their own way. And just like reveling in that was like almost meditative. It was really amazing. And so I was like, I don't even know when the last time I did this was. Like you're taking a walk and you're just like thinking about things. It's like be in the moment. I think that's something I'm trying to practice to do, and it's not easy. But yeah. Sorry, I think this is turning into like a yoga, like a meditative philosophy.
It's getting deep. It's getting deep, guys.
But I'm really interested in that. So yeah.
No, I'm also very interested in that, and I feel like it's an angle that is normally kind of brushed off as just that.
Yeah.
Normally it's very lightly touched when people have these conversations about kind of wellness in art or any career. It's kind of normally a 5-minute section stapled on the end. So I'm personally all for digging a little deeper into how people do that, because it's your actual life as a professional artist, and this is how you look after yourself. So
Exactly.
that's like crucial information for people.
It is very crucial. And like, like Albert went to art center. It's like, I know they really drill that discipline in you. But then sometimes I think it's like, is that enough to like really, like you get the discipline, but then do you really get the, like, does it really cultivate the passion of like why you're doing there? So like certain schools that really drill that, it's great. But sometimes I don't see like, and they're come out as really great artists, but then sometimes I don't see like that underlying, I guess, love under the piece. And it's like, oh, I'm just doing this because I need to do it as an assignment, versus like understanding. Maybe this is getting too woo woo. I don't know, like knowing the why and stuff. But that's something I really like to stress when I teach. It's like you're not just painting because you're painting. Like it's so important to understand how everything weaves together. And I think that's so fun to explore. I think I'm getting too woo woo, so I'm gonna stop.
Well,
But
I don't
I don't think I
too
can
woo-woo.
explain it. Oh, okay. Sometimes I get
Yeah.
really self-conscious. I'm like,
No,
I don't think I'm
I-
making sense anymore.
I mean, I think every class I've taken, I've had no doubt that my teacher's gonna be able to like push me to, or I'll have that pressure to like crank out work or keep pushing myself. That's kind of a given. But the
Yeah.
the real question in the air, and also it happens every single class. There's always a question from someone saying like, "Oh, I'm really tired. Like, how do you schedule your work so you have time for yourself? Like, does everyone else here have you all stopped seeing your friends for the past month as well, or is that just
No,
me?"
I think that's
Or-
so important.
Yeah, so I think people ask these questions in those school settings all the time as well. Better teachers for me normally, I think, do give
It's like one
time.
or the other, right? It's like when you're in school, you
Yeah.
got to stop seeing friends, cut out everything, and just do art.
Yeah.
I think there's an element of that is like quite unhealthy because it generates this mindset that if you don't do that, you're unsuccessful as an artist.
Yeah, and I
Maybe
think
I
people
got that a little
struggle
bit
to
from you,
turn that
Albert.
off as well.
It's very
like when
hard
they're
to
out
turn
of
that
school,
off.
they
Exactly.
just don't turn it off.
Like Albert, you had mentioned you still feel a little bit maybe of that, right? It's like you work so hard in school and you, because I have art center, I lived with art center friends and I saw like they didn't sleep. And I was like, gosh, is this like healthy? Like sleep and like health is so important, And so I don't know. I think that either or mentality can sometimes be a little bit detrimental. It's like, why can't you have a balance in your life, but still, be a great artist and, carve out enough time for that? That's what I'm trying to find right now as well.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Towards the late end, we just tend to normally like asking people, if they have a particular tutor or family figure or a friend or someone who, you would have considered a mentor and really helped you, someone who helped you out when you were coming up, as it were.
Yeah, I think for me it would be my friend Corey Peters. I mentioned him a lot, but he is someone who and he's like terrible in social media. It's like you won't really find him much. He's like one of those people like I don't care about posting and I'm just gonna like focus on myself, which I really admire in a sense. But sometimes I'm like, Corey, you gotta like put your work out there. But I think he's someone that is him and his wife are both teachers as well. They run their own art school called Right Brain Academy in Alhambra, LA. And I think they're both of them are just really, really great at teaching, at being intentional about their paintings. And I think he's the person that made me realize how important composition and design is over like just creating a pretty image. And I think that's how I got to the next level of like, I don't just want to paint something for the sake of like that is pretty or I know people will like it. Like I want to paint something because I can learn something from it and that it will take me to something deeper than what I'm usually searching for. And I think he really helped turn me on that. So I would say Corey Peters and his wife, Rebecca Peters, are two people that I really look up to.
I will say, I mean, obviously Tiffany, because Tiffany was there really when I was at a point where I felt like I was really trying to sprout, and she gave me all the water that I needed to be able to do that.
Alex.
But yeah, I would also say one of my Chapman professors, Jim Schlenker. He was really really helpful. He was my one professor who like was kind of teaching me in a digital painting class. It was like production pipeline for animation or something like that. But I remember there was kind of painting involved in it, and kind of post graduation, I became really grateful to him because I would ask him if he could meet and check my portfolio out, give me advice on what I should do, and he pointed me to a lot of online resources to like learn how to paint. And I definitely wouldn't have found Tiffany or any of like the other online resources that I did without him pointing me in that direction. So yeah, and he called me recently to go get lunch and just chat and catch up. And yeah, I think I really appreciate that kind of mentor relationship that he's given me too. So I'm really grateful I have a lot of people that have altered the course of my art education, like Tiffany and Jim. And yeah, I'm really grateful.
I'm thankful for a lot of people. Thankful for like my family and friends who like supported me. But I think one teacher that I really enjoyed learning like lessons from was a gentleman named Michael Chaffee. He was an instructor at Art Center, and he taught a class called Vehicles and Props. And I think that was like the first time when I saw someone, and I was like, oh, like how do I explain this? Like, that's not the artist I want to be, but that's the type of person I want to be. I don't know if that makes any sense. And I saw the way he interacted, just the way he interacted with his students, and how passionate he was. And it was like a great, because being an artist, as you guys know, it's not easy to tell yourself that like, oh, I've decided to become an artist, because I'm sure when we were all starting out as artists, like it was hard, right? Because we grew up being told that like, yeah, art, you're not going to get paid squat, you're going to live in a box, and yet we still do it. So I think there's a lot of like, I feel like we're rebels, we're pirates. We're just like, no, screw what everyone says, let's just keep doing it. And Michael really implanted in me that like, no, this is like the best job in the world, and just never give up and just keep doing what you're doing. And especially when it comes from like an industry professional like him, he's designed the kit from Knight Rider and the designer for the DeLorean at Back to the Future. So he has this impressive resume, but he's so darn humble, and I just love that about him. So I probably thank him and Tiffany as well.
I love that you mentioned that he's like the person that I think that's so powerful.
So yeah, I know you probably got to shoot off around now then,
yeah,
Tiffany.
I gotta shoot off. Yeah,
that's all right. I mean, I don't know if Albert and Alex, if you have any time, just if you wanted to stick around for another question too, or if both of you have got to shoot off as well.
I love hanging out with Alex, of course.
Okay. Sold for the price of one Alex. Then. But yeah, no, I guess I'll just
bye guys. Should I just leave or something?
Say thank you. Yeah, I think you can. Yeah, you can just show yourself at the door.
She just leaves without saying bye, just log off.
No, I don't want to interrupt you guys, but I'm gonna leave the room. I think. Thank you so much for having me on, and it was great to chat with you all.
No, generally, so thanks. Thanks for turning up, Tiffany. That was really, really wonderful, and it's lovely to meet you.
Yes, great to meet you too, and David, and Albert, and Alex. You guys are all awesome. So yeah, bye.
Bye, Tiffany.
Bye.
Bye. Sending hearts and hugs. Bye.
Send us bread.
Yes, that too. I'll send you the smell of bread.
And bread, please.
For sure, for sure.
All right. So now the real conversation begins.
Now we
So,
talk about climbing, guys.
I was going to say, so what's your training regime for that? As someone who might start climbing.
Well, you just gotta start with quick thumbnails, right? Gotta do a few black and white
Okay.
value thumbnails, and then you can start climbing, guys. All right. So for everyone who's hearing this and you want to climb, start with the black and white value thumbnails.
Just the fundamentals.
Just the
whatever that means
fundamentals,
to
yeah.
you. Just
And
keep
then-
grinding the fundamentals and you can climb.
Exactly.
Yeah, I guess one question that me and David both were interested in asking, I think quite a lot of people would be interested in, is that, if I'm correct, both of you studied at college in the States, right? Or
Yes.
university / college,
Mhm.
however it would be. So like, you had a formal education, whereas a lot of the people we've interviewed, or a lot of people listening, I know, have basically studied purely online, or they try to like teach themselves as much as possible and then pick up a mentorship. And it sounds like you guys have had an experience of doing both. Like after you finished college, you've maybe followed up with some, online tuition or a mentorship, or going to some workshops or courses in person, if that's correct. A lot of people will consider that probably one of the biggest decisions that they'll make in their like art education journey. And I was just very curious to hear kind of a little bit about both of your experiences of going to a college, or how you might compare it to what you've had before or after, or if it is very difficult to compare them.
Yeah. For me, it was like very separated, in that what I did while I was at Chapman is completely not what I'm doing now. I really kind of started my art journey after I graduated, or maybe like a year, my senior year is when I started really getting into digital painting. And that's kind of like what I love now. But yeah, I think what I gained from college, like regular college, was just, the relationships with friends and things that have been really important to me and that are like kind of core to my life now. Like I'm still friends with all of the people who I went to school with at Chapman. We hang out every week. Yeah, the relationships part of it was huge. And then for the online type of school situation, that was kind of my own determination to kind of hone this skill that I really wanted. So I think it can be done if you don't want, or if you don't have the financial resources to be able to go to like an expensive school. Luckily now there's enough resources, I think, out there for people who are motivated enough on their own to hone their skills and develop that, ability to work professionally. But yeah, it's really just a test of your grit and your willingness to put in the work. But yeah, like if you were to go to a school like Art Center or whatever, I'm sure like you kind of would have to ride the wave of, you're being put through that experience because you're on the train tracks of this education program. But when you're self-taught, or if you're taking online courses and things, you kind of have to make sure that you're whipping yourself along and like pushing yourself to the same degree, to a higher degree and whatnot. So yeah, it's self-discipline, but it's not the end all be all if you can't go to art school. I think lots of people are able to get into the industry and work as professional artists. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like what Alex was saying. It's like just because you don't get into the art school that you want to get to, that doesn't mean it's like the end for your career. I know a lot, and Alex as well, and I'm sure you guys as well. You guys know so many people that got like the dream jobs, and they didn't even go to school, right? They just sat down at the desk and they just painted all day, every day. And I'm actually really like, I'm really impressed by that because I'm the type of person that can't do that, which is why I needed to go to like a formal education school like Art Center, because I didn't have the self discipline to be able to sit down all day every day paint. So while that was rewarding, I will say that like it's not a must. You definitely need that, like what Alex is saying. You need to be able to push yourself within. But in terms of the relationship with like taking classes outside of school and work and everything like that, I think that just comes pretty naturally because when you do This is something that I heard a lot when I was in school, that when you start working, that's what you'll learn even more than school, in my opinion. I think I learned the most at work than school. Um, and I'm sure some people will disagree with that or agree with me on that, but that's just from my experience. But when you're working, you start to realize like, wow, like for me, I didn't know much. When I started working, I was like, wow, like I don't know that much about art in general, actually. So it was actually not hard for me to reach out to Tiffanie and like other amazing artists to ask for like teaching and mentorship. So I think it's pretty natural because if you're like a true artist, you always want to keep learning, right? So yeah, I think it's very natural to seek out other artists who are better than you while you're working as well.
Yeah, I think that's a. I think a lot of people would share that view with you.
Mm.
The biggest period of learning that they have is normally just after they found kind of their first job, or whenever they have like a big role change wherever they're working.
Yeah, you really see like what you can offer and like what you need to work on and where you're good at, where you're not good at, right? And I'm sure since all of us are working, right, we've all felt that, we've all understood that, like, oh, these are my strengths and these are my weaknesses. So that's been great.
Yeah, it's that thing where I think a lot of people think their first job kind of breaks that Dunning-Kruger life that everyone has before, where it's like, oh, school's told me I need to be able to do this. So you think that you're quite, settled and capable and done because you can do most of the things that the school have set you to do, and then you start your job and you realize that you know nothing. It's like every day I learn something new. I realize that there's like a thousand other paths from that one new skill that I know nothing about as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I know, a lot of people may struggle to either, get a place in college or, depending on where they live in the world, just even the cost of it can, really determine whether it's, a huge risk for someone or just a time investment or something that's completely unattainable. So for me, it was really huge when online schools became a thing. Because I'm quite similar, I think, to you in the sense that I really struggle to just sit down and make myself paint for 12 hours a day. If it's just, I've decided to watch a YouTube video that's told me I should sit down and paint for 12 hours a day. But the second there's a real human being on the other side of that video that I know I'm going to see again in a week's time, who will say like, well, did you paint for 12 hours every day for a week? I can actually make myself do it.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, the structure of a class, whether it was in person or online, kind of accelerant to my art journey. It'd be the type of thing where before I'd be very happy if I could manage to an hour of drawing a day after work. And that would be like a win I got. And then the second I did a school, I started an online class. I still had the same job, but then that immediately jumped up to like, oh, I'm suddenly able to do 5 or 6 hours a day, or I'm trying to squeeze it into my lunch break because I'm excited, or I like my teacher. I mean, I think that's the power of a good teacher as well.
Yeah.
Is they give you that extra. You find more time in your day because you wanna make them proud, or kind of reaffirm to them that they are doing a good job of teaching you. But yeah, that was really massive for me. So
yeah, which is why I'm so impressed with Alex was mentioning earlier that he struggles with like the tunnel vision that you get. Like Alex, you said you get like hyper focused, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, that's like, I think that's great, and that's something that I lack. And I think that's like, just getting focused like that. I think that's so awesome. It's so inspiring that you do that, dude.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a blessing and a curse. I like when I was younger, my parents were, taking me to therapists and stuff and being like, "What's wrong with this kid?" He's
Really?
like, he can't change his attention or like to other things or transition between tasks and things. So like it definitely was kind of a curse when I was younger, when I was taking a ton of like in high school, you have 6 periods or whatever, all these different classes. But I really just kind of picked one thing that I really loved and then did that. And then everything else kind of fell off to the wayside. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it shows. You said you started 2020 digital painting, right?
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, that's a short time. That's
Okay.
a short time to where you're at. So that's awesome.
I appreciate it.
And then, I guess quickly, I don't know if either of you wanted to talk, a little bit more about, the nonprofit that you're working for, or I don't know if this new art business venture that you've got going on is under wraps or whatever. But if you want a little soapbox to stand on and talk about it, I'm definitely interested to hear about what you're doing with both of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alex, do you want to talk about your business, your art business?
Sure. So this kind of concept for this business kind of came to me a few months ago. I never ever thought that I would be somebody who would start up a business of any kind. I never really felt that I had that bone in me, but I kind of had been receiving messages from people asking if I could critique their work or look at their portfolios or you know, like they would be asking me about connecting with people in the industry and how to like network with people. And I kind of realized from that it would be really incredible if there was some sort of resource online where you could just go and submit your work for feedback for a portfolio review or for just an individual paint over and get video feedback from professionals. So I decided to start this company. It's called ArtMigo. Essentially, it's going to be a website where people can go. It's just going to start out for just digital painting, but you can go and you can submit a painting that you're working on for your personal work and stuff, and it'll go to uh, a panel of people, and one of those panelists uh, will give you a 20 to 30-minute video critique paint over of your work. Um, and you could do that. You could also submit a link to your portfolio, and somebody who's working in the industry can give you a video of them going through talking about your pieces, what they think you should do, give you some pointers and stuff. And yeah, hopefully one day it can expand to other categories, like have, a niche for character design or for prop design or for layout, um, maybe even photography or things, something like that, like add different categories. But yeah, that's kind of the thing that I'm working on right now.
That's awesome, Alex.
Yeah, I agree. That sounds like a really, really exciting idea.
Thank you. Yeah. I kind of, oh, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah, I just like, kind of realized that nothing like that was out there already, which I was really surprised by. Um, and then I kind of was just like, well, if nobody's going to do it, I guess I'll do it. So that's how I ended up doing it.
That's an
I like
idea.
the name too, Art Me Go.
Wow. Can you please send us a link in chat for
So
the?
the website has not launched yet. It's still being developed.
I see.
When can we expect it if we're not going to pin you down to a date?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to launch within a month and a half to 2 months.
Oh, very soon then. Yeah, that's
Very
super
soon.
exciting.
Yeah.
Well, make sure. Well, I would still send on the website link. I mean, obviously, I
Yeah.
can edit this bit
It's
in
going to
now
be
anyway. But
it will be artmigo.org.
okay, great. Because I mean, by the time this is up and published and all that, it will probably be very close to the date.
Yeah, and I run a nonprofit with my best friend Carter Beck. We started. It's actually been exactly a year now and 2 days since we started. We have amazing people on our team: Luke Black, Harmony Wayne, Carter Beck, who I mentioned, and also now we have Tiffanie Mang. As you guys know, she's helping us with us as well because she has a passion for teaching and helping children in need. But then, yeah, the nonprofit, we basically our mission is to provide educational support and art supplies to children affected by natural disaster and conflicts such as war. So Carter and I, just about a few weeks ago, maybe about a month ago, we just came back from Ukraine where we did our first project, donating over 200 backpacks, coloring books, crayons to children who have been displaced due to the Ukraine-Russia war. And we're also working in Turkey right now. So it's just a really fun side project that I've been really passionate about. Not only get to work with really good people, but just be able to just share education art supplies to children who like really and really like need it emotionally. I think it's been extremely rewarding, and it's something that I would like to share with the art community as well. Because I know there's a lot of artists out there who do want to help, they just don't know how to. So that's something that I'm working on as well. So that's been really nice. And we are called Global Education Connection. I will post the link of the website and the Instagram page on the chat below. But then, yeah, it's been really fun, really great, and we're always looking for artists and people to come out and reach out to us and help. So yeah, we'll be going back to Ukraine and Turkey later this year. So we'll be getting ready for another donation supply. So if you guys are interested, yeah, that's happening. So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can imagine David and me would both, personally be very interested in the side of that, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of people from our very humble viewership,
yeah, no,
humbly sized
thank you for
viewership, who
asking
I'm
about.
sure would love
Yeah.
to help. So
That's so
yeah, I think what you're doing is great.
Yeah, getting to work. It's just getting to work with amazing people. I think that's the best part about it. Just like us working in the industry as well, right? Like the reason why we do this is because not only do we get to do art, but we get to work with amazing people most of the time, right? So
Yeah, that's so cool that you're doing that, Albert. It's awesome seeing it on your stories and stuff.
thank you, man, thank you.
It's very inspiring to hear you both, guys, because yeah, I'm doing some like art business slash I don't know what projects, and it's very inspiring to listen to you. That yeah, like Alex, you have amazing idea with the portfolio stuff, and I never heard about anything like that. And I
Yeah,
think I will tell it to my friends, and I think yeah, it can be very beneficial for them.
Yeah, I'm
And
surprised there isn't something like that already. It's a
well,
great idea.
yeah, the reason that there isn't is because if, you know, it requires working artists to be able to give you feedback. And the problem with that is the demand is definitely there, but artists who are working don't really have the time to keep up with that demand if there was to be something that was, like a larger scale thing. But the model kind of that I've approached it with is the kind of the panelist model of just if you want to submit your work, you submit your work to this panel and one of the panelists will respond. You don't get to pick like a panelist. But in doing that, it takes the burden off of one artist to shoulder all of the weight of the responsibility for giving critiques and stuff. And it kind of becomes a community thing. So people can submit a request for feedback, and then one of the panelists will accept that request, kind of like an Uber kind of situation. Um, and then, once that request has been accepted, then they can make the video and whatnot. But yeah, it's just a time thing. I think it's like artists are not motivated to be able to do that because it's too much of a time commitment, I think.
Yeah, I think your idea as well really helps deal with the problem that a lot of beginner artists have, which is just access. I think just before we started talking, we're actually kind of all introducing where we're from in the world, and we're talking about like being in LA sometimes can be great because you could literally bump into an artist who you like or respect when you're just at the gym or at the grocery store, or
Yeah,
you can go see them physically in a convention, whereas you might live in a part of the world or in a small town. You could even just live out in the middle of nowhere in
yeah,
California, and you don't really have access to someone who might be able to give you that feedback. So I really like the fact that this kind of allows you to make those kind of chance connections that you would normally only make if you had the ability to travel to somewhere where those connections are to be found.
yeah,
Kind of thing.
definitely. I get a lot of concerns from people saying, well, I don't have like a big Instagram following, or, like nobody sees my work when I post it. So I feel like if I work really hard, it doesn't matter because, nobody's going to see it. So I, you know, I kind of took that and thought, well, if you're putting your work in front of a professional often, or you're submitting your work, a lot, people can see you grow, and you're exposing yourself to a ton of people who work in the industry. So, you know, it's a win-win situation. Everybody gets to, see those people get to see your work, and then artists love to help other artists. I know I do. So, um, yeah, it's creating that environment where that kind of mutually beneficial relationship can happen.
That's actually a really big point that you kind of brought up at the end as well. And it's something I really hope that eventually, in talking to people like yourselves and Tiffany, the speakers, has really been, is that artists on the whole, from what I've seen, do really like helping other artists. And I kind of want to help break that shyness or anxiety or, I don't know, unworthiness or whatever people feel like when, they're maybe about to send a message to an artist who they like for critique or feedback or just to strike up a conversation with them, and then they stop themselves. Or, they want to go and ask for help from someone, but they just assume they won't have time or they're too busy, something like that. And I mean, I think all the people who we talk to, you've all, for the most part, very easily just agreed to talk, and you've all been very honest and upfront and have shared your own experiences and wisdom. And I think that is actually quite a common experience for artists. And I think me and David both were really keen to try and show people that other artists do want to form connections with you, and they will help you once you kind of find the right person.
So I was also really surprised something like that wasn't already out there, but I'm really excited to be able to step into that zone and help.
So thank you so much for spending the time, and thank you again, Tiffany, if she ever hears this, for inviting me and Alex. What you're doing is awesome, dude.
I mean, thank you very much for kind words, but it literally doesn't exist without the guests that we have on. You guys are the people who are actually really kind of bringing something valuable to what we're trying to do.
Can I ask you one question before I leave?
Yeah, go for it.
Who's your guys' dream guest?
A dream guest. Ooh.
It's very hard because it's very hard to answer because we wanted to do this podcast. At least when I was listening podcasts, it was almost always big artists, and I don't think that not many podcasts brought students' views into the world. It was always professional artists is answering, not from student side. We want to show people okay, what professional artists do and what students do, and you guys, you were students 1 year ago, and now you have your own business and your own career, and so as for me, I don't think I have a goal to bring someone here, someone big. It's more being consistent and having more and more students.
That's a great answer, David. I was expecting you to say Keanu Reeves, but that was or Alex Honnold, right, guys? Alex Honnold. We'll bring Alex Honnold in, and I'll come back, and Alex and I will just bombard him with questions.
I think David nailed it.
David as well. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate it, and you guys have a great weekend, yeah?
Yeah, you guys too. Cheers so much for the time.
Cool. All right. Thank you, guys. See you guys later.